Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Saddest Night Out. My name is Roy, and I am the host of this daily podcast, and it's primarily about music and creative culture in London. Today's guest is Sam Belcher. I was introduced to Sam through Ant Henson, who is on episode 160 of this podcast. He was my first Skype interview. In reaching out to Ant, I also asked him, among other things, that I'm looking for a drummer. Is there anyone he'd recommend? And he said he has this friend Sam who drums but also teaches drums. So maybe if Sam himself isn't available, he might have some students who could be available and interested. So I reached out to Sam, and as tends to be my habit these days, I will reach out to someone if it's something to do with this field or whatever, asking for something specific, but I'll also mention I have a podcast and I'd love to talk to you for it. Some people reply just for the thing I'm asking about and maybe say they're not interested or ignore the podcast. Some people don't reply at all. And I think anyone who's been a relative nobody sending out emails, cold emailing people, I imagine you're all familiar with not getting any responses from some of the people you email. But Sam not only responded to my inquiry about drummers, but also responded to being on the podcast. He said, yeah, sure, I'm up for it. We arranged a day and a time, and that is what you are about to hear. So this was recorded Monday, the 3rd of June, and I went to his current location, which is, as I say in the episode, right near Cambridge Heath Station. It was our first time meeting, so we had a bit of a chat before I started recording for the podcast. And I'll just say a heads up, apologies, he's sitting on a bit of a squeaky chair, which makes a little bit of an appearance during our conversation. But otherwise, the audio is as tip-top as it often is on this episode. So Sam and I get into how he got into drums in the first place, what brought him to London, the bands he's been in, and just his journey within music in general. And the future looks very bright for him as well. So this is me talking to Sam Belcher, the owner of Bang Drum Lessons and the drummer of the band The Halfpennies. Enjoy this chat, and I'll catch up with you again afterwards. So I am just about 3 minutes away from Cambridge Heath Station. I am in a rehearsal studio, practice studio. How would you call where we are?
Both.
Yeah.
Drum studio, teaching studio, rehearsal studio. Just somewhere that I can put my drums up and play, really, isn't it?
And would you kindly introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yes, I'm Sam Belcher. I own a music school, a drum school specifically, over in East London, and I'm also in a band called The Halfpennies.
So how long have you been in this particular place?
So this particular place has been about 5 months, 6 months. But that's because our current studios at the moment we've been moved out of just while we get some work done. So this is only a temporary thing, but we'll be back in our old studios within the next few months, I'm hoping, to be fair. But I've been in East London, and I've had studios up and down Mare Street for about the past, well, since I started the business, so 8-9 years, something like that. So
drum teaching, how long have you been playing the drums in general?
So, Christ, 17, 18 years, somewhere around there.
And how did you start?
I started because how old must I have been? I got into secondary school, and I'd always listen to music. Parents putting it on, blah blah blah, this, that and the other. But I think it was when I hit secondary school, started taking like proper music lessons and seeing people. I remember seeing a lad in a Nirvana hoodie and just thinking the hoodie looked cool. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'll see what it is and let's listen to the band. And I remember hearing that and being like, Christ, like that's cool stuff, man, to be fair. And it kind of birthed out of there. I think as soon as I hit secondary school, I just that's kind of when you start maybe exploring yourself personally as you grow up, but then your musical tastes start coming into that as well. And Bob's your uncle. I was just playing, I was always tapping, and so someone was like, why don't you try the drums? And so did, and here I am in East London with a few studios under my belt.
So when I was getting into secondary school, I hadn't quite found my music yet, but my school had a music program and I got the violin. I didn't stick with the violin. I'm kind of kicking myself now, but at the time it's like, yeah.
You always do with the classical ones.
Exactly, same with piano. Like, I'm on the bus, like someone else played guitar. I'm like, violin isn't cool. No one cares I play this. Did you take to the drums straight away? Like, where you
I fortunately did really well. I'm quite logically minded as well, so it just got grafted to it, and I picked it up very quick and smashed through a lot of my grades. So I was kind of hooked because it worked with my personality as well, like that. So like it just went,
so you learned drums, as in going through the grades and the theory and everything.
So as soon as I started going for lessons straight away, and because I was of a younger age, they count toward your grades, count towards your UCAS points and stuff like that. Absolutely. So people suggest it anyway, but I was doing really well, and so my teacher was like, look, don't really need to do the grades, but if you want to do the grades, it will help you and stuff like that. So we did the grades and we did other stuff on the side and just kind of built it up through there. And then again, I used those grades then to get into Manchester University and do a music degree there, kind of thing. So it was definitely worth it, but just because of that age, though, to be fair.
Sounds pretty sweet. Now, as I can very much attest to, because I'm currently looking for a drummer, I imagine you must have been like gold dust for people starting bands.
I was doing all right, to be fair. Like, drummers are always in a bit of demand.
Yeah, they are.
And so the music scene that I was part of, just on the outskirts of Birmingham and stuff like that, was great. And if I remember, there was literally only like one other drummer in town that everyone knew, at least at our age when we were like 16, 17 or something like that, who people knew of around. So so it was either me or him that we were,
swimming in bands, I imagine. Were there many places to rehearse, things like that? Many gigs to play, venues to play?
There was a really good scene there, and there was a small town called Tamworth, literally just on the outskirts of Birmingham. Was kind of where I grew up. I grew up on, like, in Birmingham, and this place called Tamworth, Sutton, Tamworth, kind of thing like that. Tamworth had a really good scene at that point, because there was, I don't know why, I think everyone was united in that kind of, like we were talking before about the final two scenes of that, so it's either indie or emo kind of thing, because there was a real good scene to that at the time, and so many people wanted to play music. There was loads of people trying to play together, and there was some decent little venues around. There was good pubs that kind of brought a lot of people together from the various secondary schools around, because it was like £1 a pint on a Thursday in Bonds, and so everyone went there, and so you meet loads of people and stuff like that. And then there was loads of venues like assembly rooms in town. There was above Bonds, there was another bar that had a place where you could play, like, and then obviously Birmingham is Birmingham, so you play all the time around there. So it was just a decent. There was just a decent scene there. And then when everyone kind of grew up and moved out, and it was a steady decline of the high street, Tamworth, because it was an outer line thing, just kind of went down, and so then the music was sucked out. But I'd already up sticks and gone to university by then, but it's a bit sad going back there, like periodically through university, and when I first moved to London, go back and just see it go down bit by bit by bit like that.
Bit heartbreaking. What this used to be.
And I used to play there, and but now it's like a Costa or something like that.
You kids today, you got no idea what this town used to be.
Exactly.
So it sounds like things are pretty sweet in Birmingham at the time. A perfect breeding ground to become a drummer. You moved to Manchester for university. What are things like there?
Manchester's decent, great fun, to be fair.
Was it a continuation of what you're doing in Birmingham?
So, because I was there at university doing a music degree, I was there just having a bit of fun. I was playing, definitely, but I was more playing with the people that I lived with, or some people on the course. We were always writing stuff and doing stuff for the course. And so we definitely gigged bits and bobs, but it wasn't huge or massive. Admittedly, I actually gigged less during university than I did
back in
Birmingham, or since I moved to London as well, like that. So going to university to go and do a music degree, I actually ended up gigging the least amount. But I was still playing a lot, but it was more geared towards the university stuff as well. And then admittedly we were partying quite a bit as well. So
that's what being a student's about.
Like, I was networking in a different way.
I went to university in Huddersfield, so Leeds and Manchester were the regular places to go for gigs.
Leeds is decent, yeah.
Leeds is pretty good. The Cockpit was my favourite venue.
Love that place, yeah.
Oh, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. So, after you finish university in Manchester, do you stay there for any period of time?
No, I'd already had a taste for London life when my uncle invited me down one time, and he, at the time, lived on Portobello Road at the top. And he's done quite well for himself down here. And I remember I was about 18 or 19, so just as I was going off to university, and I came down and he showed me, and he just took me around town, and we went up into Soho House and partied up there and met some people, and like I remember meeting some random, I can't remember who it was, there was loads of, there was a manager of a band there, definitely a big band that I met. And my uncle had some contacts and stuff like that. It was all over this one weekend that I remember, and it came over, and it was raucous. it was really good fun though. At the same time, I was about 18, 19, and I was just like, Christ, like this is where I want to be. Like this, like Birmingham's all right to be fair, but you come down here and you meet the people, and you and you get in certain situations and stuff like that. Oh, it's wicked.
You caught the bug, so you're itching to get back as soon as you could.
Literally, as soon as I finished, as soon as I graduated, I asked my uncle, "Could I crash at yours, like for a couple of months while I find my own place?"
Yeah.
Did exactly that. Stayed there for about 2-3 months at his. Eventually found a place. I did actually start a course, like a advanced diploma kind of thing, master's course in West London. They were called the Tech Schools, I think. Now they're Brighton Institute of Music. I don't know.
BIM.
Yeah. So I think they bought them out, something like this anyway. Whilst I was kind of like just finishing that course, then waiting for graduation, which is a couple of months, isn't it? And then it's September, October. I was thinking like, oh shit, like I want to move down to London, and then I had that drummer that I told you about that back in Tamworth, Birmingham.
The other drummer.
Yeah. He'd gone to and done a course similar at the same place.
Oh right.
And he was like, oh, it is actually quite decent, to be fair, like that. Like you should, if you want to go and try it, definitely give it a shot. And so, and that's, I saw him just as I kind of like finished my university as I popped back, and I was like, well, I might actually do and go and try and see that. I wanted to be down in London anyway, so I just kind of applied for that, got in, then graduated, came down, moved in with my uncle, found a place in a house of 20 people in a shared bedroom. I was sharing a bedroom with someone. I'd used up all my government funding at university, so I had to use my own. Moved in with a mate who just got a job down as well, and we were sharing a bedroom, a single bed each, in a house with like 20 people.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was illegal, that place. Definitely.
Welcome to London. It's a shared bedroom. Yeah, and then
worked this course, and then gigged and did various bits and bobs that I could. Tried to do a bit of teaching on the side, and worked like a crappy catering job for that year while I was doing that course. And then that's where I met my business partner, Danny, who I started this with. And we finished that, and it took us about a year and a half to get the ball rolling. And then eventually we were dotted around various places and going to people's houses and stuff. And we were like, well, we want to do these drum lessons properly. We can't go to people's houses where they might have a really crap electronic kit, or they've got no materials, or they've got no PA to play along to tunes and stuff like that. So we were like, let's do it properly. We found a place over at Hackney Central, and that was about 8 years ago now. And so this is where we eventually got to.
So
at the end of that,
8 years ago, you start teaching drums, like properly teaching drums with your own company.
Yeah.
That's kind of a unique situation, a unique perspective, because we talked about how things were when we were younger, getting into music. Imagine you get a bit of a glimpse of what the next generation is like who are learning instruments and getting into music. Have you seen tastes change much? Who are the bands that they want to play like?
Do you know what? Because it's the drums, you still get a lot of the people that like just kind of like their rock. So they're like their Foo Fighters and maybe Queens of the Stone Age and kind of stuff like that. And then you get people that see live bands, so maybe like some indie bands, I don't know, like the Vaccines and stuff like that. There's still it's still kind of like an indie rock. Most of the people I don't get a huge amount of people coming to me going, I'm really into house. Like, can I learn the drums? Because, well, first of all, it's all electronic, and second of all, the beat rarely changes. You know, within that kind of stuff. It's when people get into a bit more instrument music, and the first wave of instrument music for most people is your indie and your rock. And not a lot of people come into me not knowing anything and being quite young and go, oh, do you know what, I really like this Mahavishnu Orchestra jazz fusion album, you know, like, or that kind of thing. They usually come in with indie and rock. So like you do see taste not in terms of genre, you see bands change, but in terms of genres, you don't see them change much, because they're the intro for it, indie and rock, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what are the Vaccines? One of the newer bands?
So Vaccines have been around a while. I'm sure. They just popped into my head because I was working with a student over the weekend, and that was the last song that I can remember that I was doing with a student. But I assume they've been around a while. Obviously, the Foos and Queens of the Stone Age have been around a while, but
so indie rock is still kind of going strong.
Like rock, indie rock and roll, or indie. They seem to be still going strong, at least anyway.
There's life in the old dog yet.
Yeah, definitely.
So that kind of paints a picture of your teaching career, but what about playing in bands? How did that kind of continue to exist while you're in London?
So as soon as I finished that course, a lot of time and effort was being put into this, really, to be fair, building this business, and I was doing a bit of teaching on the side, but I was always playing, just trying to find people to play with, a few people from the course. I also did some various open mic nights and just joined some people. I was never really in a band. I was just kind of dithering around, kind of jumping from other people, because I had my focus elsewhere, to be fair, but I still was playing at the same time, and I still had a few contacts, so I was still playing at the same time. But then it wasn't until I moved to Manor House, so after I finished that course, I moved after about another 6 months, 8 months or something like that. I moved up to Manor House, all the warehouses around there, and the warehouse community there, and I stayed there I was living there for about 2 years, two and a bit years or something like that. And it was there I met loads of different people, loads of creatives and stuff like that, and that's where I started to make more contacts and play with more people. And that's where I met your friend Ant.
Your friend and mine.
Our mutual friend. And like I mentioned, Jude and a few other people as well. And I just started playing with various people, really. And then, and then after a while, we continued doing all that stuff. And the Halfpennies that I mentioned, they kind of sprung up through one of the gigs that I was doing, and blah, blah, blah. I eventually ended up getting into this band, and then I've been with this band now for 3-4 odd years now.
Is that the only band you've been in all this time?
So there was a lot of crossover over that time, because as a working musician as well as having this business as well, there's always crossover. You're always doing bits and bobs, but when this band got more serious, then other stuff had to stop, really. Because I was, my job was, this teaching job was full time, working 6 days a week, and running a couple of different studios and another teacher underneath me and blah blah blah, and so that was taking up a lot of time. And then if I wanted to be serious, a musician, it's difficult to be able to dot yourself around with loads of different projects. Whereas if I can get with one project, and they're all serious, like mainly as well, they were all super serious, and we are still all super serious about the band as well, but trying to split yourself across many different things, whereas if I could just have one band and my one job here, then Bob's your uncle, it works really well. But it does help that this band was very focused and had some great songwriting and stuff like that, so it was an easy choice. Do you know what I mean?
Is this the longest you've been in just one band then? Because it sounds like, having played music in general for so long, you can, at the start it's just whoever will have you and whenever you feel like, but the more you do it, the more you can refine your choices of who you decide to play with.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it was kind of like an easy choice because these boys, like, admittedly, like my musical tastes have grown a bit away from like Indian rock. I'm more, like I said before, into like progressive stuff and a bit more jazzier stuff and everything like that. But it's like we play indie rock and all that kind of stuff. But because the songs are really well written, and the lads are all really good, it was very easy for me to be like that.
Yeah.
And it does make me look back and think, oh, there was a lot of crap I put up with other people and this and that and everything like that, and it's been like I said, it's been a bit tricky with this band at various points with other bits and bobs, but we've always played it, it's been together and been really super solid together as well. So everything's got its ups and downs, but it's like the highs have way outweighed the lows, and it reminds you of all the stuff, the drama and the crap that you've had with old bands and stuff like that we don't really have in this band. It's been like, so much easier. You know, like it was an easy decision, really.
That's a really good place to be in, like to be in the band in the first place. And talking to you beforehand, when you're hinting at what's on the horizon for this band, it sounds like you're in an even better place there, where the things that are about to happen are the most exciting things about the band. So what's over the horizon for the Haypennies?
Well, hopefully now, at the moment, we're just pumping through as many gigs as humanly possible to earn some extra cash. But we got a good reception off our last EP and various PR bits and bobs that we pushed out. And we got some radio play, we got some decent gigs, blah blah blah, this, that and the other. So at the moment, we're just in the process of earning as much money as we can and playing as much to get a new EP together, with potentially a producer that have worked with Arctic Monkeys and just worked on the latest Sam Fender album. So if that goes down well and we could get some decent PR behind it, the last EP went down really well, and we think our songwriting is so much better than the last EP, and we've got Joe on board now, our new lad. So it looks promising, very promising, because we think our stuff is way better than that old stuff, and so if people were responding well to that old stuff, hopefully they'll go,
just wait till you hear we've got coming up, basically.
Exactly.
Now, theoretically speaking, if in the future you had to choose between teaching and being in a band, is there one you choose over the other, or would you ideally continue doing both?
Well, I will always do both. If I don't necessarily have to teach, I can always run my business still. And have someone else teach, and then intermittently in between, like if I was big, then in between tours I would then still teach and stuff like that. Like I really enjoy it. So like I want to keep this stuff going on as well. But if there was an opportunity where it was like you can really have a shot with your band here and they might make it big, well, I'd kick myself. If like I was on my deathbed and I go like, oh, I wish I'd tried, do you know, like that. Like, so I'd have to give it a go. Do you know what I mean? So I'd find a way of working it out. I would find a way of working it out. But if it really came down to it, and there was genuine reason to believe that this could get big, then it would have to be that, because like who would turn that down? Do you know
you
what
got to
I mean?
find out if it could happen. So in the meantime, the things that you are doing currently, where can people find out more about them online?
So the business stuff is all on Bang Drum Lessons. Just search for East London Drum Lessons and we pop up at the top. It's called Bang. And find us on Facebook and various bits and bobs like that. But the more interesting stuff, the band stuff, again, all the social media bits and bobs, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all I think the handle for all of it is at Haypennies, HAPENNIES. There's the website haypennies.co.uk. It's got all our gig listings on there, Instagram, blah blah blah. It's just everything's on Spotify as well, iTunes. That's all the free stuff. If people really wanted to be quite generous and actually give us some money for our music, we actually host it on Bandcamp as well. You can download it there for free, but there's a little donate button as well. So if you wanted to donate some actual money and help us fund the next EP, then
which is going to be amazing. Just you wait.
Which hopefully should be amazing.
Sam, thank you very much for your time today.
No, thank you very much.
And I look forward to checking out the Halfpennies on stage as well.
Go for it, man. Next big gig is the 28th of this month. 28th? When's the last Friday of this month?
I think that is it, 28th, because my gig's Tuesday 25th.
28th it is then.
So 28th.
Yeah.
Alright. Thanks a lot, Sam. And that was that. Thank you very much, Sam, for your time. I'm almost taking for granted the fact that on a lot of these episodes that you're hearing, I met the person I'm speaking to for the first time in person. Maybe 5, 10, 15, maybe half an hour before I pressed record. Because the nature of these conversations I'm having, it feels as if we've known each other for a while and we're able to get deep into it, rather than the fact that he literally opened the door for me for the first time about half an hour before I pressed record. So thank you very much, Sam, for inviting me in and for a really great chat. Also, I called him the owner at the start of the episode. I think he might be the co-owner. I'm not specifically sure on his title there. But he certainly runs Stag drum lessons. And I can't quite find the name of the person who helped to record Sam Fender's music. If it's someone who worked with Sam Fender and Arctic Monkeys, I'm inclined to think that it's James Ford, but I have no confirmation on that. Either way, congrats to him, congrats to Sam and the rest of the Halfpennies on getting such a high-profile person to work with them, and I hope it works out well. As for me, well, the most important news in my life right now is that J. Paul has returned. J. Paul, Jaipaul. If you are not familiar with the name, I highly recommend you get familiar with the name, because his song Jasmine is, in my mind, the greatest song of the 21st century, largely because it doesn't sound as though it was written by a person. It sounds as if it was beamed into our atmosphere from the further regions of outer space. And he has returned and put up on streaming services the album that was made up of leaked material of his back in 2013, I believe. And I remember waking up and discovering that his album had been leaked, buying it on, I want to say Bandcamp, but I'm not sure, being refunded once it came to light that it wasn't his official release, but someone who had found some of his material and leaked it online and charged people for it. And now, 6 years later, he's actually released it himself. He posted a really long letter explaining all that he's been through since his music was leaked online, and it's really heartfelt, and I appreciate him sharing that. And I feel awful that he went through so much on the results of people leaking his music. I feel a little bit guilty enjoying the music as much as I do because of what it put him through, but it sounds as though he's come through the other side. I want to say better for it, but hopefully he's at least on his way to being in a better place, because the music, that though it was unethical means that it came out into the wider world, I really, really like that album, particularly the first song on it, Straight Outta Mumbai. I think upon discovering all of this on Sunday, I have listened to that song at least 50 times, just on repeat, because oh, I love that song so much. So yes, J. Paul has returned. Metronomy has also returned with another fantastic song called Lately, which I highly recommend. I myself, I have a gig coming up, or my most immediate gig, like capital G gig, is at the Stag's Head, Sunday 16th of June, as part of the Paper Boat Collective. After that, I am playing a show on Tuesday the 25th of June at the Roadtrip and the Workshop, and it's looking increasingly likely that I will play that show solo. I still have yet to have a rehearsal with all 4 members of the band, and it's getting a bit close to the date of the gig for me to feel I can have enough rehearsals for the band to be tight for that show. So if I end up playing solo on Tuesday the 25th of June, so be it. It'll still be a good time. At least I would rather go into it knowing I'm going to play solo than come to the night before and think, oh goodness, I think I should play solo because I'm not sure the band is good enough, and stressing and panicking myself over it. So that was quite an epiphany, quite a corner I turned in the last 24 hours, and I'm feeling good about it. Otherwise, I have another rehearsal tonight with the Paper Boats Collective to get ready for that show. I'll be playing the drums. I'm hoping to... I got to see Neil from On Video at Premises Studio, and it was the most I had seen of Premises Studio. That place looks incredible, and I'm really hoping I can record another episode I hope I can record a future episode with Neil where I find out more about Premises Studios. And his band On Video is actually playing tonight at Seabright Arms with Spectre headlining. Now, fun fact, I once met Fred McPherson from Spectre at a benefit show for Grenfell. And Peace were the headlining band. I forget the name of the venue, but I got to talk to Fred after the music had finished. And I said to him a tagline I haven't said in a long time, which was that I think the indie rock throne is there for the taking, and I want to take it. And Fred said, send me your demos, and if it's good, I will manage the band. I sent him the demos. I never heard back from him, which I can laugh about now. And to be honest, I could laugh about then as well. But it would be cool to catch up with him for the podcast because he's a really interesting person who, similarly to the people I spoke to at the Lexington who run White Heat, whose names I can recall because I have a list of all of the episodes in front of me on my screen, but there's now 165 of them, and can I find that one episode among them? It's not looking likely. Oh, I'm scrolling. Boy, am I scrolling, but there's just so many, I can't quite remember who it was. Ollie and Matty, episode 56. I spoke to Ollie and Matty, who have been in London. Same with Sydney, actually. They've been in London at least since 2008, if not before then, and have seen that last boom of indie rock, especially in London. The Libertines and Block Party are the bands I really think of as being luminaries in that field. These folks were there at the front line, front row, whichever you want to call it, when all that was happening. So it'll be interesting if I can talk to Fred about what life was like in London in the live music scene back then, how it is now, the comparison, what's changed in the interim, etc., etc. So fingers crossed I get to talk to him. If not, no harm, no foul. We'll see what happens. Anyway, this episode was already a long one because of the really good chat, and it was a really good chat. I hope you agree. So I'll not make this outro go on any longer. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks again to Sam Belcher. I'll put links in the notes for this episode. I'm still not really sure what that's called. In the notes, in the blurb, whatever it is, I'll put some links to where you can find out more about Sam and his band. In that, I've actually been going back through some of my older episodes because the Spotify, if you type a link to something, on SoundCloud, I've typed links and then gone to a new line to type the next link, but on Spotify, it doesn't recognize that space, so it will post the hyperlink and then put the next word right in with the hyperlink. So instead of it being Instagram.com/John Smith, new line, and also blah blah blah, it will say Instagram.com/John Smith and then the rest of what I've written, so that link becomes useless. So I've started to go back through my old episodes to correct some of those links. Not that you needed to know that, but I thought I'd share it anyway. So thank you very much for listening. I will hopefully catch you on tomorrow's episode, but until then, take care of yourselves and I'll see you around.